Billionaire catches a homeless boy dancing with her paralyzed daughter. A barefoot, hungry boy slipped his skinny body through the broken hole of a mansion and saw the billionaire's daughter sitting in silence, her face clouded with sadness. Then he did something no one expected. He began to dance, not for money, not for food, but simply to make her smile. But what happened next will shock you. So sit back. Let's figure out what happened next. And if you're still tuning into our channel for the first time, kindly click on the subscription button and give this story a thumbs up. In the heart of the city stood a mansion so grand that people often stopped on the road just to stare at it. The walls were painted white, the gates shone like gold, and tall palm trees lined the compound like royal guards. To outsiders, the mansion looked like a palace of joy, but inside sorrow ruled like a king. This was the house of Marcus Wellington, one of the richest men in the land. People said Marcus Wellington's money can buy anything. But there was one thing his money could not buy: peace for his only daughter, Isabella. Isabella had once been a lively girl. She used to run in the gardens, play with the butterflies, and laugh so loudly that her laughter echoed through the entire street. But that joy was stolen from her 2 years ago. One evening, Isabella and her mother had gone out together. On their way back, a speeding truck lost control. The crash shook the earth like thunder. That night, Isabella's mother died, and Isabella's legs became lifeless. She was only 7 years old when it happened. From that day, the girl who once ran like the wind now sat in a wheelchair. Her face pale, her eyes dim. She could not play. She could not walk. She only watched from her chair while other children ran past the gates. Her father tried everything. He brought doctors from Lagos, Abuja, even from America and India. They examined her, tested her, treated her, and gave him bills worth millions. But after all the pain and money, they shook their heads and said, "We are sorry, sir. Your daughter may never walk again." Marcus Wellington's heart broke. Every night he prayed. Every morning he wept secretly in his room. He had cars, servants, companies, and wealth. Yet none of it could restore his daughter's joy. Isabella too cried silently. She remembered how her mother used to hold her hands and say, "My daughter, you are my sunshine." But now her sunshine had turned to darkness. The laughter in her life was gone. Day after day, she sat outside the mansion, staring at the gate, watching the world move while she remained still. That same city had another child, but one who lived in the shadows. His name was Oliver, a boy without a home, without parents and without comfort. Every day, Oliver walked through the market hoping to see a fruit peel or bread crust someone had thrown away. He begged people for money, but most times they pushed him aside, saying, "Go away, dirty boy." Sometimes when he was too weak from hunger, he would sit by the roadside and cry. But tears did not give him food. Tears did not give him shelter. One thing, however, made Oliver different from other homeless children. Whenever his sorrow became too heavy, he would dance. Yes, he would rise on his skinny feet, lift his hands to the sky, and dance. He would stamp his bare feet on the ground, twist his body, shake his head, and move to the rhythm that only his heart could hear. When he danced, his hunger did not bite him so much. When he danced, the cold did not feel so cruel. Dancing was the little fire in his soul that kept him alive. On that hot afternoon, hunger was burning in his belly like fire. His legs were weak and his throat was dry. He wandered the streets, searching for anything, maybe a crust of bread or a fruit pill. As he walked near the big mansion, something caught his eye. Through a small opening in the tall gate, he saw a young girl sitting in a wheelchair. Her hands were resting on her lap, her face was heavy with sorrow, and her eyes were filled with pain. Oliver stopped and stared. For a moment he forgot his own hunger. He whispered, "This girl is rich. Yet, she looks even more sorrowful than me." He looked at her again. He could see in her face the kind of pain that no food, no money, no servants could remove. It was the pain of a broken heart. Oliver thought to himself, "When my sorrow is too much, I dance. My dance drives away my tears. Maybe if I dance for her, she too will smile. Maybe she will forget her sadness for a moment." He looked left. He looked right. The security guards were standing far in front of the mansion. At the back wall, he saw a small broken hole where bricks had fallen off. Without thinking twice, he squeezed his skinny body through the hole. Inside the compound, he walked carefully on tiptoes until he reached the girl. She turned her head and saw him. At first, her eyes widened in fear. Who was this strange boy in torn clothes, barefoot with dust covering his body? Before she could scream, Oliver bent low and said softly, "Please don't be afraid. I came not to harm you. I came only to make you smile." Isabella frowned. "How can this dirty boy make me smile?" she thought. Isabella blinked as the strange boy bowed before her. His clothes were torn in many places. His ribs showed through his thin chest. His hair was uncombed and his feet were bare. She wanted to call for help, but there was something in his eyes, something gentle that held her back. The boy spoke again, his voice trembling but firm. "I am Oliver. Please don't be afraid. I did not come to steal. I did not come to harm you. I only came to make you smile." Before Isabella could reply, Oliver took a deep breath, stepped back, and began to dance. At first, he moved slowly, lifting one leg, turning, bowing low, and rising again. Then, his steps grew faster, his body twisting, his arms waving like branches in the wind. He spun around, stamped his feet, jumped lightly, and shook his head with rhythm. He danced as though his hunger did not matter. He danced as though his bare feet did not hurt. He danced as though the whole world was watching, though it was only one sad girl in a chair. Isabella's eyes widened. At first, she only stared, her heart heavy as always. But as the boy continued, something began to change inside her. The dance was not polished like a trained performer's. It was raw, full of life and full of freedom. She felt her lips quiver. Then, for the first time in many years, she smiled. The smile broke into laughter. Her hands clapped on their own. "Again!" she cried. "Do it again." Oliver spun faster, jumped higher, and shook his body until dust rose from the ground. Isabella laughed so hard that tears rolled down her cheeks. It was not tears of sorrow. It was tears of joy. The mansion, which had been silent like a grave for years, now echoed with her laughter. And in that moment, Oliver knew his dance had power, could heal broken hearts. Inside the mansion, Marcus Wellington was sitting in his study. His eyes were on a business document, but his heart was far away. For months, he had watched his daughter sink into silence. For months, he had wished to hear her laugh again. Then suddenly, a sound broke the air. It was faint at first, but it grew louder. Laughter. His daughter's laughter. Marcus Wellington dropped his pen. His eyes widened. He whispered, "Isabella, is that you?" He stood quickly, almost knocking over his chair, and ran to the window. What he saw nearly stopped his heart. There was his daughter clapping and laughing in her wheelchair. And before her, a dirty, ragged boy was twisting and dancing like a wild spirit. Marcus Wellington's face turned dark. His voice thundered, "Guards! Guards! Who is that boy? Who allowed him in here?" The guards rushed forward, confusion in their eyes. Marcus Wellington stormed out of his study, his shoes echoing on the marble floor. His anger grew with every step. When he reached the garden, he pointed at Oliver. "You! Who are you? How dare you sneak into my compound? Guards! Seize him at once!" The guards moved quickly. Oliver froze, fear flooding his face. He dropped to his knees and raised his hands. But before they could touch him, Isabella cried out with a voice filled with tears. "Father, no. Please stop. Don't hurt him." Marcus Wellington turned in shock. Isabella's face was wet with tears, but her voice was strong. "He makes me happy. Can't you see his dance? His dance gives me joy again. Please, Father, don't take him away." The guards hesitated. Marcus Wellington's mouth hung open. For 2 years, he had tried everything. Doctors, treatments, therapists. Yet today, one poor boy had brought back the smile he thought he had lost forever. Still, anger and fear battled in his heart. What if this boy was a thief? What if he had evil intentions? He glared at Oliver. Oliver quickly bent his face to the ground and begged, "Sir, forgive me. I only wanted to see her smile. I have nothing. I am nothing, but I know how to dance. Please don't punish me." For a long moment, silence hung in the garden. The guard stood frozen. Isabella sobbed, holding her father's sleeve. Oliver trembled, waiting for judgment. And there, something shifted in Marcus Wellington's heart. He had never seen his daughter plead for anything with such passion. He looked at Oliver again, and though he saw a homeless boy in rags, he also saw something else. A boy with courage, with kindness, with a gift. Marcus Wellington's face was hard as stone, his eyes sharp as knives. He looked down at Oliver, who was still kneeling on the ground with dust clinging to his skin. "Boy," Marcus Wellington said in a voice that made even the guard step back. "Speak the truth. Who are you? Where did you come from? And why did you enter my compound without permission?" Oliver swallowed hard. His voice shook. "Sir, my name is Oliver. I have no father. I have no mother. I have no house to call my own." The guards exchanged glances, whispering. Isabella leaned forward, her heart already heavy for him. Oliver continued, his words pouring out like water from a broken pot. "When I was very small, my parents died in a sickness that swept our village. There was no one to care for me. I slept under bridges. I searched dust bins for food. I begged from strangers. Many times I went to bed with nothing in my stomach but tears." He paused, his voice breaking. Tears rolled down his dirty cheeks. "Sometimes people chased me with sticks when I begged. Sometimes I fainted on the street from hunger. But when the sorrow became too heavy, I found one thing that helped me: dancing. When I dance, I forget my pain. My stomach may be empty, but my heart becomes light. My tears dry. Dancing is the only friend I have." Isabella covered her mouth with her hands, her eyes flooding with tears. Marcus Wellington's stern face softened, though he tried to hide it. Oliver bowed his head even lower. "Today, when I saw your daughter sitting with sorrow, I remembered my own pain. I thought maybe if I dance for her, she will smile just as I smile when I dance. Forgive me, sir, for entering without permission. I came not to steal, not to harm, but only to bring her joy." Silence fell in the garden. Even the birds seemed to stop singing. Isabella suddenly cried out, "Father, can't you see? He speaks the truth. For years you spent millions, but I never laughed. Today this boy made me laugh again. Please don't send him away. Please." Her hands gripped her father's tightly, her tears soaking them. Marcus Wellington felt his heart break open. His daughter's voice was like a knife cutting through his pride. He looked at Oliver again. The boy was poor, dirty, hungry, but there was honesty in his eyes. There was goodness in his heart. At last, Marcus Wellington spoke slowly, his voice gentler than before. "Oliver, your life has been hard. Yet today you gave my daughter what money could not buy: happiness. From this moment your story will change. You are no longer homeless. You will live with us. You will eat with us. You will be part of this family." The guards gasped. Isabella clapped her hands with joy. Oliver lifted his head, eyes wide with disbelief. "Sir, is it true? Will you truly allow me to stay?" Marcus Wellington nodded. "Then yes, because kindness deserves reward, and because anyone who brings life to my daughter's heart is no ordinary child." That night, Oliver slept in a real bed for the first time in his life. The bed was soft, the sheets white, the pillow fluffy. For a while he could not sleep. He was afraid he might wake up and find it all a dream. In the morning he woke to the smell of hot bread, fried eggs, and tea. His stomach growled so loudly that the maids laughed. He ate until his belly was full, something he had not felt in years. Isabella was waiting for him in the garden. Her face shone brighter than the sun as she waved. "Oliver, dance for me," she called. And Oliver danced. He danced with joy, not sorrow. His steps were light, his body alive. Isabella clapped and laughed, her eyes sparkling. Every morning and every night, Oliver danced for Isabella. Each time she laughed more, smiled more, and her cheeks began to glow again with health. The mansion, which had been silent for years, was now filled with music and laughter. The cooks hummed as they worked. The maids smiled as they cleaned. Even the guards, once stiff and stern, tapped their feet to Oliver's rhythm. People passing by the mansion whispered to one another. What has happened in Marcus Wellington's house? It was once filled with sorrow, but now we hear laughter every day. Marcus Wellington himself would sometimes stand quietly in the corner of the garden watching the boy and his daughter. His heart, once heavy with grief, felt light again. He thought to himself, truly, life is not only about riches. Sometimes joy comes from the simplest gifts. And so, Oliver, the homeless boy, once rejected by the streets, became the light of the mansion. His dance became the medicine that healed not just Isabella's heart, but the whole household. The days turned into weeks. The weeks turned into months. And every single day Oliver danced. He danced in the mornings when the dew was still on the grass. He danced in the evenings when the sun painted the sky with gold. He danced in the nights when the moonlight shone like silver. Each time he danced, Isabella laughed. Each time she laughed, her face glowed brighter. And each time her face glowed, her father's heart grew lighter. But something else was happening. Something mysterious. Something no one noticed at first. Whenever Oliver danced, Isabella felt tiny sparks of life stir in her legs. At first, it was just a tingle like ants crawling. She thought it was her imagination, but slowly the tingling grew stronger. One bright morning, as Oliver spun around and clapped his hands, Isabella suddenly gasped. Oliver, I felt my toes move. The maids dropped their brooms. The guards straightened in shock. Oliver stopped dancing, his eyes wide. Move them again, he cried. Isabella looked down at her feet slowly, painfully, her toes wriggled. She burst into tears covering her face. Father! Father! She screamed. Marcus Wellington rushed out into the garden, his heart pounding. He saw his daughter's toes twitching, moving for the first time in years. He fell to his knees, unable to believe his eyes. From that day, every time Oliver danced, Isabella tried harder. She pressed her feet against the ground. She pushed against the arms of her wheelchair. Her legs trembled like weak branches in the wind. Then one faithful morning, the miracle came. Oliver was dancing more joyfully than ever, spinning and stamping, twisting and jumping. Isabella gripped the arms of her wheelchair. She felt fire in her legs, a strength she had not known in years. With tears streaming, she cried out, I will stand. And she did slowly, shakily, painfully. Isabella rose to her feet. The maid screamed. The guards shouted. Marcus Wellington fell flat on the ground, weeping like a child. My daughter is standing. Isabella took one step, then another, then another. The wheelchair was behind her, and she was walking on her own two legs. She ran forward, though her steps were wobbly, and threw herself into her father's arms. Then, Father, I can walk again, and the whole mansion shook with cries of joy. News spread like fire. It leapt from the mansion to the street, from the street to the market, from the market to the whole city. The billionaire's daughter can walk again, people shouted. The girl who was paralyzed for years is now standing on her feet. Crowds gathered outside the golden gates singing and clapping. Strangers danced in the street. Women ululated. Men beat drums. Children jumped with joy. Doctors who had once said impossible rushed to see for themselves. They examined Isabella's legs, pinched her toes, asked her to walk. When she took step after step, their mouths hung open. This is beyond medicine, they whispered. This is a miracle. Marcus Wellington declared a great feast. He ordered cows to be slaughtered, rice to be cooked, palm wine to flow. Musicians were hired. Drummers beat their drums until the ground shook. The mansion, once filled with sorrow, now overflowed with celebration. Guests came in hundreds. Rich men and poor men, neighbors and strangers, all came to witness the wonder. At the center of it all stood Isabella, smiling, walking, and sometimes even dancing with her new brother, Oliver. The people cheered until their voices grew. When silence finally fell, Marcus Wellington stood before the crowd and lifted his voice. Listen, all of you. For years I had money, but I could not buy my daughter's joy. I had wealth, but I could not heal her. Doctors from many lands failed. But this boy, this homeless boy, brought back her laughter with nothing but his dance. And through that joy a miracle came. He turned and placed his hand on Oliver's shoulder. From today, Oliver is no longer a street boy. He is my son. He is Isabella's brother. He is family. The crowd roared in approval. People clapped, shouted, and praised the boy who once slept under bridges. Oliver bowed his head, tears streaming down his cheeks. His heart, which once knew only hunger and rejection, was now overflowing with love. And as the drums beat, as people sang, as joy filled the air, one thing was clear. The dance of one homeless boy had turned sorrow into laughter, hopelessness into healing, and despair into miracle. And so, Oliver, the homeless boy, became part of the Billionaire's family. But more than that, he became a living story. Whenever people told the tale, they ended with these words. No matter how small you are, your gift can change lives. Joy can heal where money fails. Kindness can lift the sorrow of another and also lift your own. And that is how the boy who once slept on the streets became the brother of a billionaire's daughter, and how his dance turned sorrow into laughter and despair into a miracle. And here comes the end of this amazing and beautiful story. Kindly share your thoughts on the comment section. We'll be happy to read them. And don't forget to subscribe on our channel if you're joining us for the first time. And lastly, don't forget to share this story to your loved ones. Thank you so much for watching and do have a beautiful day ahead.